Hello, I'm Antonio, and in this video I will guide you through the basics of the board game Kabula. This video will make sure you can start playing, but will not cover all the rules. In our website you will find the most updated rulebook and all links to play and to give us feedback once you're done. In Kabula, players will take the roles of common people from Earth, who were summoned into a fantasy island. The Kabula is a tree of life, which revives creatures killed around it, and it is placed in a sanctuary in the center of the island and guarded by a herald. The sanctuary amplifies its powers, but this creates the time warps which are connecting the island to modern Earth. This is not your standard fantasy board game. The Kabula has brought corruption to the island in form of technology, social media and so on. Also, the characters are all quite peculiar. You will find yourself battling cool monsters, but also solving the weirdest quests you ever found in a fantasy game. Overall, the game mixes resources management, a big deal of highly strategical combat, but also satire on society and plainly stupid sense of humor. The game is fully competitive. Each hero will eventually try to steal the Kabula from the sanctuary, and the player who has the Kabula when the herald is killed wins the game. Each hero has 3 possible endings, which are represented by these 3 alignment cards. Initially, players will solve story cards, which move their alignment towards the red and the white, until they complete their story. At the point they can enter the sanctuary and trigger the last battle with the herald. While the Kabula is in the sanctuary, any player who dies is revived by the Kabula. After the Kabula is stolen, players cannot revive, so there is a small chance that the herald kills all players and nobody wins. I'm going to use the same Tabletopia version you will use. This currently supports up to 4 players, but you can also play solo, following the same rules. I will also write you a couple of tips in the comment section if you're playing solo. At the beginning of the game, everybody chooses which hero to play and they sort their decks. You will have 3 alignment cards, which you will place above your player mat, matching the hearts on the cards and those on the mat. You will have a starting equipment card and a main story deck. This red card gives you all the info on your hero's backstory and the starting values of the parameters and which tokens you start with. The parameters are farts, which is the currency, HP is your health, and HP max is the upper limit of your health. Tokens are used to trigger actions. They're the main resource in the game, and I will be back to them soon. Finally, players will set their rage level to 0. What you need to know about rage now is that anytime you suffer any attack, your rage level will go up by 1. After setting up your character, you should read everything about the herald. We are working on several heralds and they will give a different flavor to each game. But in the current version we only uploaded the Water King. This is an environmentalist dragon. He goes around eating spicy Mexican food to forget the new taste of water given by pollution. You will set up its HP, which depends on the number of players, set the herald as number 1 in the round order number tracker, and place the players there following the rules by the herald, in this case in order whom had Mexican food more recently. In the first turn, players will draw 1 story card from their personal deck. Story cards describe situations in which heroes find themselves and you always have at least 2 options to solve the card. When you solve 1 story card, you draw another one. What matters now is that by solving these cards, you get XP and alignment hearts. XP is tracked in here, and alignment hearts move your alignment towards the red or the white. For example, 2 white hearts means that your alignment moves 2 steps towards the white. If at any point you have 4 XP or your alignment is fully red or fully white, you completed your story. You stop drawing story cards and flip the alignment card that corresponds to your final alignment. This unlocks a special skill that you can use. I will be back to this at the end, but I already warned you that the player who completed this story can steal the Kabula. The game will proceed with players playing turns following the round order number tracker. Every time it's the herald turn, draw 1 card from its deck and simply do whatever is written. When it is a player's turn, they can perform actions, and there are 3 main kinds of actions. Red actions end player's turn, and the next player starts playing. Blue actions don't end the player's turn, so they can be repeated multiple times, And there are also actions without a colored frame, and they are defensive actions, so players just use them outside of their own turn while being attacked. There are actions on the map, and they can be related to specific locations, such as those marked in the city corner, or they can be related to the exploration of road encounters, dungeons, and monsters, which are marked with these tokens. And there are other actions on their player mat, and they're mostly related to players' equipment. Often, there is a token cost for an action. In here, my weapon has an action which activates using Thief. So I will move Thief from the fresh to the used pile to activate it. Besides those in the equipment cards, there are two actions which are common to any player, and they're marked on the player mat, and they are Move and Rest. I will now give you an overview of how to perform actions during your turn. Just keep in mind that you're free to do whatever you please, but anytime you use a red action, your turn will end. Move requires legs, and it generates steps. The number of steps it generates changes with the number of players, but let's say that you're playing with 3 players, it will generate 2 steps. 1 step means advancing to any adjacent hex. The exception is that to go up a mountain from a plane, basically from a green to a brown hex, you need 2 steps, and it's not possible to cross rivers. If I want to move from here to there, I need 3 steps, so I'll use 2 legs, as clearly I cannot use half a token. The other actions which is common to any player is Rest. Resting means bringing back all tokens from the used to the fresh pile. During the game, players will collect new tokens, and when they do, they place them in the used pile. They can gather as many tokens as they want there, but only 10 at a time can be in the fresh pile. Rage can be consumed to refresh 1 single token. If you suffer 1 attack when your rage is already at level 2, you can directly refresh 1 token. The difference is that while Rest ends your turn, using Rage can be done at any point, in defense or attack, and it doesn't count as an action. The main idea of combat is very simple. During their own turns, players can use an attack, and the target of the attack can either activate a defense or roll a body part die and see where the attack lands. For example, if I'm playing as Jessica, I can use Legs to reach Isolde, and I can use Thief to activate my attack, which has a value of 2. Let's look at Isolde's equipment. She could activate a defense using Back. If she does, we just do the math. Attack minus defense equal HP damage. In this case, Isolde loses 1 HP, and since she suffered 1 attack, she gets 1 rage. Let's assume that she can't or doesn't want to use her Back to activate a defense. In this case, she must roll a die and see where the attack lands. The effect of rolling is written on top of the armor cards. There is a chance that the attack hits an armored spot, which is similar to activating a defense, or it could hit a weak spot, which increases the value of the damage. If the icon is neither armored or weak, the HP damage will simply be the same as the attack value. Players can wear multiple armors if they are not of the same color, and they can have as many weapons as they wish. What is important is that only 1 action at a time can be activated. This is not all about combat. I could be discussing ranged attacks, defense that delivers excess damage, and so on. You don't need to know all of these things before starting playing. The last page of the rulebook is an icon glossary. You can check there anytime you find something you're not familiar with. As I said earlier, there are actions that can be triggered on the map. In particular, city corners are filled with them. Each city has 1 dedicated corner, which counts as only 1 hex, so you don't spend steps to move between these hexes in here. You can sell guts for farts, you can take a train to any other city, and you can recover HP at the inn. Also, you can shop. When you shop, you draw as many cards as shown by this number from the silver item deck. You can buy or sell anything you want. Road encounters, dungeons, and monster encounters are the 3 kinds of encounters you can trigger from these tokens on the map. The symbol is a road encounter. If you are on this hex, you can decide to explore this encounter. If you do, you will flip this token so that next turn, instead of a road encounter, there will be a monster, and you will draw a card from the matching deck. Then you just read the text. There is one main event and at least 2 options, and you can choose what to do. And they're usually quite funny, not too risky, and you can get new tokens, items or farts, so just read the card and do what you please. All encounters cards are framed in red, with the same pattern as the red actions. This means that after you complete the exploration, your turn will end. If you are in a hex with this token, you can draw a card from the Dungeon Danger deck. Again, everything is described in the card. Just know that there are 2 levels in dungeons, so at first you will solve level 1, and then you can decide if ending your turn or exploring level 2. Get ready to sustain some damage, as there are traps which work similarly to attacks. The cool thing is that if you survive the 2nd level, you will get a gold item. The third and last type of encounter is monsters. If you're on a hex with a monster token, you can flip it and draw a card from the monster deck, corresponding to the symbol on the map. We have 2 decks, silver and gold, with gold being the strongest monsters. When you know which monster you're fighting, you can place their mini or standee on the board, and you will place the monster token on the round order number tracker, just before the player who started the encounter. So in this case, the monster will go first, and then the player will play again. When there is a monster fight, consider as if everything happens in a shortened time-lapse than a usual turn. Players can only move and attack. This means that exploring or resting is forbidden as long as the monster is on the board. The Herald will skip its turns as well. One of the reasons why players might want to attack a monster is that their life is marked with tokens. For example, this Clockwork Seahorse has 3 guts and 1 legs to mark its HP. And every time a player inflicts damage, they steal this token, starting from the guts, and they place them in their used pile. Anytime it is the monster turn in the round order number tracker, you will roll a body part die and check what happens in the card in the offensive section. In this case, it is a sharp beak, and the target of the attack can decide to defend or just roll and see where the attack lands. When the monster is attacked, you will roll the same die, but this time you check on the defensive section. Any effect that is not a pure defense will apply only after the HP damage is removed, and if the monster survives. Sometimes a monster action includes a movement. If there is this icon, it will move towards its target. If there is this other icon, you will roll a directional die, and you will check on the compasses on the map in which direction it will move. If you kill the monster, the Kabula will revive it, and in this moment you can synchronize your energy with it. To do so, place 3 tokens in the Familio slot to offer the energy to the monster, and roll a die. If the icon you roll matches one of the tokens you placed there, you get the Familio. If not, other players can try as well, but only if they attacked the monster. Usually, during a monster fight, you flip the token of players who attack a monster to mark who can claim it as a Familio. And if a player is killed in the fight, they have to reset their token to neutral. When you take a monster as Familio, you give it back all HP and place it on the Sanctuary. And from now on, you can use any of its actions, paying with the token cost marked in color, so all the black and white icons were only used for rolling dice. Also, now you don't roll a die to check the direction in which the monster moves, but you simply decide. After the fight, you start back the round from whoever is after the player who triggered the fight. When a player with a complete story goes to the Sanctuary, they get a Kabula token. This is a Joker token and can be used as any token they wish. It also includes a bonus, which depends on the number of players -2. This also triggers the fight with the Herald, and this will work exactly in the same way as a monster fight, with the difference that now it's possible to rest. The Herald flies to the Kabula Sanctuary, gets his token in the round order number tracker right before the player would trigger the fight. For each one of its turns, you will roll a die and check what it does on the offensive side, and anytime it is attacked, you will roll a die and check what it does on the defensive side. When the Herald dies, the player with the Kabula wins. And this is everything you need to know to start playing. If you want to have a go at the game, visit our website kabularpg.com and go to the playtesting page. You can download the rulebook, you can create a room to play on Tabletopia, and you can invite your friends there. After you play, you can also fill the feedback form there. So thanks so much for your interest in Kabula, and we hope you have fun playing. Cheers!